Hey, my name is Joe Norris. I'm with True Look Construction Cameras. I lead our sales team here. I'm excited to be talking to Paul today. Paul's from MJ Harris. We're going to be talking about a candid take on rolling out construction tech without causing mutiny in your teams. Basically, this episode is going to be all about perspective. We're going to learn how Paul's done this, gotten buy-in from champions, really identified, how to do the field rollouts, finding quick wins, the whole deal.
Thanks, Joe. So I'm Paul Hedgepath. I'm with MJ Harris Construction. I've got about 25 years of industry experience, and about 20 of those has been in construction technology leadership role. So I've worked with Holder Construction, done construction, and now for about the past 14 years, MJ Harris Construction. So part of my role at MJ is rolling out construction technology, including VDC, BIM, but also laser scanning and then field technology too, dealing with our guys using robotic total stations, using 360 cameras, all the Procore implementation in the field and how we use checklists and inspections, observations, all those different types of things. And really any type of tech that helps us build buildings. We have a drone 14, we have a fleet of drone pilots that are at each of our job sites. And so it's really just trying to be better builders and make everybody's job easier through technology. But what comes with that is the training aspect, right? It's getting it implemented and getting people to where they want to learn tech. And so that's kind of what we're here to talk about today.
That's awesome. So I guess we'll start at the top with your title. So virtual construction director. Tell us like what that role means and maybe how it's changed here in recent years.
Yeah, so virtual construction, some people call that virtual design and construction. And I just went with virtual construction, I guess, 14 years ago or something, because I was like, I build stuff. I don't really design anything. But really, when you think about BIM and coordination, we are starting to be a little bit more of designers, even though it's a means and methods type of design and routing and things like that. Sometimes you'll see construction technology, VP or director, or VDC director, BIM director, but all these are kind of interchangeable within the construction companies a lot of times. If you're a big enough construction company, they have ops tech and then they have BIM. They're kind of separate departments and they have different titles like operations technology. And then those guys deal with the laser scanners and the 360 photos, job site cameras. And then you have these other guys that just do coordination. But for us, we're mid-size, about 300 million. I'm doing both. So yeah, it's been an evolution of titles in our industry as well as an evolution of responsibilities in the things that we do. And now I would say within the past 2 or 3 years, you can add AI to that too, right? We're getting into more of the data stuff, and you used to have, if it was the analytics guy, he kind of just did analytics, but now that's becoming more of a construction technology thing because AI is directly related to tasks in the field and not so much just a dashboard that goes to reporting for an executive. So it's becoming more of our realm as well. This is very exciting. That's the cool thing about my job is I coordinate and do BIM a lot, but I also get to do all these other things. And as technology grows, you never know what's next, right? And so I would say 5, 6 years ago, I didn't know AI was even going to be a thing on my radar. Now it is, and it's been exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah.
my next question, which I'll preface a bit, I've been in construction tech on the sales side for a long time. And I remember when we were selling things like mobile form solutions to general contractors in the field and things with mobile technology like push to talk phones and asset tracking on big yellow iron and things of that nature. In
Yeah.
your world, which has been a little opposite of mine, how would you say construction tech has changed over the last 5 years?
With 5 years, I think we've really seen the ability for technology to get in the field easier really be accepted. I think with things like Procore and other solutions out there, of it being more a SaaS solution with cloud-based stuff, that everyone has more access to this tech now. Prior to that, we were Prolog. Before 2017, it was really kind of closed off and difficult for the field to really get access. But now with Procore inspections, observations, also Procore BIM, and being able to view the model and really have that take technology out of the silo and more make it a community thing with the field. I've seen that be the biggest change I've seen in the past 5 years with the introduction of the cloud. And I think within the next 5 years, with the introduction of AI, that's going to accelerate even more.
Yeah, that is exciting. You kind of touched on my next question, which is how do you see tech tools shaping the future of construction management? So you mentioned Procore, you mentioned the robotics earlier, like all the things are just kind of happening in the space. Is there anything you want to expand on for that specifically around the tools kind of shaping the future of construction management?
Well, I think the hardware is becoming cheaper and more available. Job site cameras, of course, you guys, TrueLook, we use you, and that's why we're connected and talking. But 5 years ago, we probably had one camera. Now we have them on all our job sites. So that availability and then the transparency in terms of how it really benefits our job has been great. And of course, you guys are integrating AI as well. So I think the availability of hardware as laser scanners get cheaper, the ease of use of hardware, whether it be drone deployed ground and how we use 360 photos in all our jobs and how it's become easy and affordable for us and integrates with the aerial, or whether we're using data grid with AI and guys are texting in the field and asking anything about the project and then it comes up, right? So it's just this availability, that also the easy use, and then also the cost from the hardware side that just keeps making it easier, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And you mentioned a lot of companies in there that we partner with and like and are complementary to.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned cameras, I'll lean into that a little bit. So how do you use cameras to manage job sites that you're not physically on, and really that your teams are not physically on, every day at every moment?
Yeah. So the ability to see the job site with a live view whenever you want is huge, especially for our executives and our PMs and the people that are running jobs from the office. So when we have big jobs, of course, we're going to go out big for us, meaning like $100 million. We'll oftentimes have a PM on site. Lower than that, a lot of times the PM will work out of the office and then travel to the job sites for OAC and things like that, because we work all over the country. Um, we're working in California, Alaska, all different places. So you got to get on a plane and go to our job sites a lot of the times. Um, Now, if it's in time to Birmingham or local to Alabama, then yeah, we'll have on-site PMs as well. But uh, the ability to see the job all the time and not have to wait on someone to take a 360 photo, which is still incredibly valuable, but you still got to wait, right? And that person, that field engineer taking those photos may be doing something else at the time. And maybe you want to get a quick view of the exterior of the building. We can do that. And in addition to that, being able to go back in time and see when things happened and track stuff and say, well, a month ago we think steel was here, or there's progress, or hey, maybe something happened last night from a security standpoint. Well, now we can go back in time and look. We're seeing at risk, most GCs are in the country, and being able to see that risk right there, see what we're on the hook for, and make sure we can monitor that. I mean, that's almost a no-brainer, right? Any kind of tool that we can keep visual tabs on is something that we want to have.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I always say reality capture is an incredibly, it's comparable to job site cameras. The two work together. There's a lot of reality that happens in between those captures. And so it's
Yeah.
really cool, I think, to be able to combine those technologies. You really get a full picture of a site when you use both. And
Yeah.
those big ones, 80 million, 100 million, that's a big job, by the way, Paul. Downplayed that a little bit. That's a big job. You've been in the industry, obviously, years, you worked with different teams. What do you see as common hesitations when people are going to implement technology in construction? I think those hesitations probably come. I'll ask you to break it down for me into like upper management and maybe like out in the field and how you see those things interacting.
For upper management, cost is going to be a factor because they've got to check, in terms of our overhead and what we're spending money on, and then how are we getting our ROI on that cost. So what is the purpose of the tool? How's it going to save us money and time? And is it worth the investment? And that's what leadership does, right? They have to manage what we're spending and what we're making so we can be a successful company. And then in addition to that, you have to be able to clearly explain to leadership what this is going to do and separate the cool excitingness that you're going to have as a technology person. You got to separate yourself from that, because that doesn't really go in your favor when you're trying to explain something where people are looking for the bottom line. So really, when you're trying to sell something to leadership or convince people, you got to look at the end user and how that's going to benefit them and how it's going to not just benefit maybe one or two people, but the whole company. And then that's how you deploy something, even if it's just a pilot and it is only going to benefit one or two people for a few months. The end goal has to be company-wide distribution and company-wide benefit. And then when you look at the field side, all you're looking at is what's in it for them, right? And what's specifically in it for them for that job, and how is that going to save them time, and how is it going to be easier to learn, and not a mountain of a task to figure out how to do something, to where maybe there's a little bit of effort in the front end when you first introduce it and train it, but being able to really not have that continuous learning curve to where oh, they got to learn it. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I kind of got it. Oh, I got to learn it again because something else has gone wrong or figured out. And you don't want people going up and down with this learning curve while they're trying to build a job, because it's controlled chaos out there, right? And they're busy all the time. And the last thing they want to do is try to figure out a piece of tech. Even if they're a tech forward superintendent, if it starts going wrong on them, they're not going to want to mess with it because all the other things that are coming at them. Us office people, we kind of have a consistent, I mean, it's very busy and it's chaotic too in the office, but you kind of have a thing. I'm doing this one thing, right? But with the superintendent and field people, it's so unpredictable because you'll have one time you'll have a framer guy come up to you. Next time you're going to have a concrete guy, then somebody else has a problem. Somebody else has a problem. And they have a plan what's going on, but they can't plan out their day as much as we can as an office person. So you can't be disruptive in terms of what they're doing. It has to be something that makes all that chaos easier.
Yeah, I love everything you said there. I think when I was a young man in sales, somebody asked me one time, "What does a CFO do?" And I said, "Well, they worry about what you spend." And the person said, "No, actually, they worry about what you invest in." It sounds like if you're trying to get something towards upper management, you're treating it as an investment, and I think that's a smart way to look at it because it is
Yeah.
an investment. And if you make those guys in the field, if you make their life easier, I've got to imagine the adoption goes through the roof when that happens.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can you share a win that you've had in technology? And can you share an example of a tech investment that paid off and how it provided its value?
A couple, I would say the reality capture stuff is paid off. One of them would be structured site, drone deployed ground, and it's gone from a couple jobs in 2017 to we have it on every job. And then it's something that the executives check, say, are we doing that? We need to make sure our guys are doing that. And it's something that's gone from, wow, this is weird. I never even heard of a 360 camera to, yeah, we got to have it. So there's one thing. And then job site cameras also. And I'm not saying this because you got True Look on your shirt, but at the same point, that's another one they say got to have it on job, right? So there's a new job. We're having the job site camera. We're deploying ours. If we're out of cameras, it's something we're evaluating to facilitate that job because there's that benefit. We've seen and that ROI is clearly there. So I think with visual things, maybe the ROI is easier to see because you can physically see it, right? I'm starting to see the ROI on AI as well, and you can't see that. That's probably one of the few things that's been very clear early on. And I think it's just going to continue to accelerate. I mean, Procore, obviously, there's ROI on SaaS software. No one ever wants to go back to a Prolog or Excel or whatever else. But it took a little convincing at the beginning. And then once we learned the software, we're like, yeah, I can't live without it. AI, it's been a little quicker. But when it comes to visual, it's always been the clearest path to seeing the ROI and the value there.
So, only a couple more questions. When introducing a new tech tool, how do you make sure the field team actually adopts and uses it? And I think you checked on this earlier, it makes their life easier. I think that's the easy answer. Any kind of way you can expand on that or kind of check marks or things you do to put in place to make that all go?
You got to go out there and do it yourself. And then stand side by side with these guys and walk through it and then ask those questions. Hey, does this make sense to you? Would you want to do this? If it doesn't, tell me why and be honest. And let's see how we can fix it, right? And I know with jobs all over the country, maybe sometimes you can't do that, but when you can, you should always do that and then get those champions within that job site that agree with some of the things you're doing. Maybe they disagree and they give you those comments. And then when you deploy it on the other jobs, maybe you can't go to every job, but when you deploy it, you use those superintendents, those people as champions to help empower the other guys that may be across the country that maybe they don't get the same side by side stuff. Um, or maybe you got enough people where you can do that. And if you got someone that can actually travel around and do that type of thing, just like a safety guy does, I think that's something every company should have. But if you don't, at least have champions on other job sites that can help communicate those values to the other people. People will learn from us, but they're not going to take our final word if something's worth doing or not. You got to get the field people to really buy in, and then that can kind of spread from there and get everybody's buy-in.
I think that's an awesome answer. All right, we'll close
Yeah.
with this one. How do you train the office folks? We've talked a lot about the field. How do
Mhm.
you train the folks that may be implemented on the back end?
For the office folks, it's easier because they're all here. And so you go up there and say, "Are you using this?" And then they're probably going to say, "No, I'm busy." And then you figure out how to get them to use that. You can have formal trainings, and we've done this to where we're going to have a formal training with Lunch and Learns in the office, and you're going to come in here and learn about this. And you can kind of get some people to come in, but everybody's always busy, and you're not going to get everybody. So really doing the big trainings, but then also following up and doing those individual trainings and seeing how they're using the tool. For the people in the office, they're usually viewers of the tools, of the things that the people in the field are doing. So just making sure that they have specific tasks that they can do. I make a bunch of training videos too for everything. And then I'll say like a drone deployed ground for superintendents, or also job site cameras for superintendents, job site cameras for project managers. And each of those is an individual type of training and how they would use it and how they would interact, and gives them ideas. So you can do that in a face-to-face manner, but then also have that leave behind of the video link, maybe a one pager. Most people don't like big manuals and stuff, so one pagers seem to be good. Things like that to help. And then of course with the field, I would say don't train somebody then leave them hanging for the year and a half they're on the job. Think about the different phases of the job and then how that training could differ between the phases. So just check in and see if they're using it, and then log that kind of stuff and see what kind of feedback you can get from them and how it can become better for the next phase of the job or even the next project that you go on. There's endless things you can do. I did a training article. You guys can reach out to me, Paul H at MJ Harris. I can send that to you. It just talks about the phases of training that you can do for the field. So that's a great resource to have also.
Awesome. Well, I super appreciate you joining us and taking the time.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining, Paul. Thanks to everyone who is watching. And please check out our other Field Forward series for more construction tech insights. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.